Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Drywall Material Purchasing, Where's Your Money Actually Going? This webinar is sponsored and presented by SubBase. My name is Tawin, AWCI's Education Program Manager. At this time, I'd like to introduce our presenters. Like I said, Eric Helitzer, CEO of SubBase. Joining him is Mikki Paradis, the founder and CEO of PDI Drywall Inc., and Maxwell Easter, a project manager at GRYCON. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Tal. So for everyone joining, definitely want to make sure that the context is set right. As Tal mentioned, my name is Eric Helitzer. I'm the founder and CEO of SubBase. We're going to talk a lot about material drywall purchasing, a little bit about the platform. This is a high level of what we're doing. We're simplifying the procurement for trade contractors and their material distributors, boosting efficiency while very importantly maintaining those existing workflows. Today we're going to be talking through an introduction. We're going to be going deeper with Mikki and Maxwell as far as a fireside chat's concerned, going into some of the pain points, the solutions, and really just getting down and dirty with the industry knowledge from two very, very well-spoken, highly professional contractors in the drywall space today. I'm going to really go high level with a product demo. This is just to show how the solution, right, is being done today with some of the problems that we're going to talk through as far as the material management side is concerned, and then we'll take some questions at the end. As mentioned before, my name's Eric Helitzer. I'm the founder of SubBase. I came from 15 years of experience on the subcontractor and construction management GC front. I was enamored by a lot of the different manual processes that I saw continuously in my career at both the subcontractor side in the field, also on the operational front for the GC side. And it was really interesting to me to see how manual the processes are today for something that's so important for businesses. And the reason why I jumped into the material management space was because I noticed that the contractors we were working with did not have a great solution for many of the problems that we're going to discuss shortly when it comes to materials management. It's extremely manual today. There's really no tool on the market that speaks to the trades and specifically the drywall trades when it comes to managing those materials. There's a lot of back and forth between the field, the office, vendors, getting your budgets updated. And so what we're going to do is spend a couple minutes talking through some of the bigger problems we've seen, the cost of what a regular order workflow is, and then I'm going to introduce Mikki and Maxwell, and we'll go a little bit further. So what you're looking at on my screen here is one material order. It touches the hands of potentially 6 different people. There's a very, very manual process, and there's a workflow for the most part that's been established. Your superintendents may be calling or emailing in. Your vendors are taking orders by phone, by email, by text message. They're having to hand type that into their system. You're using maybe Dropbox, Excel spreadsheets, text message, emails. The communication is a little bit all over the place. Your budgets are not updating in real time. You might be hand punching in invoices after they've been reconciled, and maybe you have a delivery ticket or not. A single material order touches the hands of potentially 6 different people. And this is just a visual to show you the flows that we've digitized, and we're going to get deeper into some of those problems from the real life perspective. I decided that when speaking to Mikki and Maxwell that we would really structure this conversation to pulling out what I thought and we thought were the top 5 most important issues to talk about when it comes to how drywall contractors can manage better materials and what is the actual cost today if you are managing in a very manual way. So the first thing was when looking and analyzing across many different people that are not just in SubBase, but speaking from experience, an actual order could cost a single company up to $30. And what that means is the amount of hands it touches, the amount of people that are involved in a single order in a very manual process could cost up to $30 an order. What we also noticed was that because of the manual workflows, there's a very, very unstructured cost code tracking system, which typically delays, right, real-time budget updates, potentially not just days, but by weeks. When it comes to budget updates, most people don't even know what they're spending, right, or what they're committed to as far as their budgets, where they are today, until they've reconciled an invoice. If you're manually reconciling invoices, looking through emails, trying to line by line compare against what was delivered versus what was ordered, What we saw and real data shows that a single invoice can cost a company $21 to reconcile from the time it hits your inbox to the time it's in your budget or in your accounting system. Also, with real-time material tracking, what we also saw was that there was an absorbent amount of overspending, and most people were too late to figure it out until A, the job was way finished, or B, they found out because they were just not making money at a time when they thought they were making money on a job. And finally, there's a lot of different materials out there. There's databases that are hard to track. If you're doing it on Excel, it's almost impossible. And there's a lot of historical data that is not at your fingertips today when you are managing in such a disparate workflow. The decentralized collaboration with siloed data is a major problem that we're solving for, and giving better insights into those drywall contractors that want to see and want to do better with their materials. With that said, I'm going to flip it over to Mikki. Mikki is a really, really phenomenal person who's very experienced in the drywall space. I'll let her give an intro real quick, and then we'll start diving in.
Hey everybody, like he said, my name is Mikki Paradis. So this marks my 20th official year as the president and CEO of PDI Drywall. I founded it my senior year at NC State, so I've been here a minute. And I was really excited to just be asked to kind of come here and speak with you all today about SubBase, because it is the only solution that we've found in those 20 years to actually cracking the code of tracking materials. So I think I've done every process that Eric talked about and then some. You know, it was everybody had an iPad and we had an Excel spreadsheet. And so, you know, the way we kind of do things, I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So we're kind of in the South. I say kind of because there's more Southern, but, you know, we're real close to the North. We do a lot of everything based off of piecework. So even down to like my estimating, I'm estimating based off of piecework. We're paying guys off of piecework. So that the quantity of drywall that is being loaded and used is really the most important piece to how we are successful and how we make money in how our company is structured. So that material tracking was a really, really huge piece that for years and years and years, we could not get it figured out. And we, you know, again, we tried the spreadsheet and we tried, everybody has a notebook, and nothing would work. And there was even a couple of companies, you know, that we've spent a bunch of money on software, because when talking to them, they were like, oh yeah, our software doesn't do that exactly, but we can kind of adjust it to work that way. And actually it couldn't be adjusted to work that way. So it wasn't built for drywallers. It wasn't really built for material tracking. And so in their attempts to try to make it fit what we needed, it just turned out where it was just a waste of time and money. So SubBase was the first real product that came in and solved a lot of problems. So SubBase helped us get our material tracking down completely. So it is amazing the way that the product gives you have your quantities in there right away. So when you set up your job, you're putting in every single piece of drywall that you have estimated to use on that job, like every type, every roll of tape, every box of screws. So if you as a drywaller get that granular in your estimating, you can put that into SubBase and track it as you do each PO. It's showing you how much materials you have left, which is honestly revolutionary, because even with the material tracking in QuickBooks, it wasn't that real time. So I know when, you know, we're halfway through a job and, you know, we only have X amount of boards left of this one type of board, there's a problem. And so that kind of real-time feedback is something that we've never had access before, you know, not even spreadsheets and whatever that could do that. So that's like one piece of it. That material tracking was really huge for us. But on the back end, the office end, I don't know how it is everywhere, but in North Carolina, we get invoiced based off of the truck deliveries, not our PO. So I could send in a PO, because I'm sorry, I also didn't clarify. We specialize in multifamily new construction. So we're doing really large projects where we're turning in POs for, you know, 1,700, 1,800 boards per PO. And ideally, you would just get one invoice for that 1,700 boards, but it actually will come out to about 30 different invoices because they invoice based off of truckloads. And that's just how the NCDOT requires them to do things here in North Carolina. And that was killing us. So it was killing our ability to get those, those invoices entered and matched up with the orders and with the POs. It was killing us because we couldn't get those invoices in time. Like, so we're always paying late because the invoice isn't in, because there's 30 different invoices for this one PO. And it was just chaos. So there was a lot of things that were not getting done and getting done efficiently until we brought in SubBase. And so now the way that we turn in our PO, we still get 30 invoices, but SubBase has a matching piece of it where it will match that every invoice that comes in to your PO, and then it will reconcile that and it sends it over to QuickBooks. And so that in and of itself, we went from spending about $5,000 a month with our QuickBooks person to $500 a month through using SubBase because of how quickly and how much time she was saving just with using the SubBase and how it reconciles the invoices and sends it over to QuickBooks. It's saving us $4,500 a month just in office backend kind of fees that we're not paying now thanks to using SubBase. So there's a lot there, and I'm sure that anybody watching might have questions, which I'm happy to answer, but high level, that's how we're using SubBase to track our materials, to do that real-time tracking of like estimated versus actual, but then also massively reducing office work and making sure that what we were billed for is what we're what actually ended up on the job. That in and of itself, because of the way that SubBase works with the material supplier and how they can go into the PO and say, hey, we actually didn't ship this many of this quantity, has reduced us being overbilled completely. So we no longer get overbilled for products that were ordered but not delivered, because they can go into SubBase and use SubBase without having to have an account set up or anything like that. Because material suppliers are like, I ain't got time for that. But they make it, SubBase makes it so easy for them to just to go in and be like, oh, hey, we didn't send 30 of these pieces. And so that adjusts and it gets, rectified. So honestly, charging for, they're getting, billed for things that you did not actually receive, that has almost completely become a non-issue. So that in and of itself is, I can't tell you how it's weight is it worth in gold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll get into some of what Mikki's been talking about because I think it resonates with a lot of other drywall contractors. Maxwell, I'd love to give you the spotlight for a couple minutes before we get into our chat. Give us a brief intro on what you're doing, how you've handled drywall in the past, and a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Maxwell Easter. I'm a project manager at GRYCON. We're a general contractor here in South Florida. We work from Palm Beach down to the city of Miami. We are around 50 to 100 million per project construction costs. That's kind of our sweet spot. We're a GC, so our approach to SubBase is a little bit different than a subcontractor, but sometimes we do have to self-perform scopes of work, and I have self-performed scopes of work, particularly drywall on a previous project. I don't have a system for purchasing materials. I am not used to doing that. So what I did was I got SubBase to help me do that. And I was able to essentially have a purchasing office that was me, but it was so efficient that I could do it on the side and not worry about the ins and outs and the confusion and the sticky notes and the phone calls and the emails, because what Eric's done is he's created an ecosystem that's really expanded. I mean, I know SubBase, it continues to add new features to get rid of pain points in the industry, and So I think it's a phenomenal piece of kit, I guess as the British would say, but yeah, so that's kind of my background and input there.
Let's so now that we've got the context, so we've got Mikki, who is really trade focused, drywall in her blood, Maxwell from the GC side. I want to kind of start now with Mikki and go a little bit deeper into our chat. So Mikki, if you can, you've been in the industry for a very long time. If you can pinpoint, like, what was the biggest day-to-day challenge on the material management front, either between you and your vendors, the tracking, what was the number one problem that you were looking to solve for? Just to make sure that we can resonate with other drywall contractors out there to see if they're looking at the same problems that you saw.
Right. So there was also always the issue of, we submitting our orders, and it was, like you were saying in your intro, sometimes it was a text message, sometimes it was an email, sometimes it was a phone call. So there wasn't anything really solidly in place that was consistent in its application, in like, this is how we turn an invoice, like orders. But our biggest issue was not having accurate counts of what was actually delivered versus what was ordered. So, when we start an apartment complex, we don't know exactly, like, there's certain things where we can tighten the board up on. So like, maybe we go into a unit and we realize, like, we can probably reduce that board count by 5 boards. Well, we have to have some kind of system in place where we can then, when we load that next unit type, reduce that by the 5 boards. And so nothing that we had in place was functioning in a way that would save us, that 5 boards. Yeah. So with SubBase, we could go in immediately, create the next PO, and reduce that by 5 boards right away. You don't have to send it, but it kind of sits in, stasis, if you will, until you're ready to send that. So we could load up that next PO and just reduce those board counts as we went from unit to unit. And so when you're thinking about reducing 30 boards a floor or 5 boards a unit in a 350 unit apartment complex, that's a lot of board that you never even had to load on the job. And what was happening pre-SubBase was we would end up with all this extra board on the job because we couldn't get to the material supplier before they loaded the next floor to reduce that board type. And so there was a bunch of wasted material. And honestly, it was just like watching money blow right out the window.
Maxwell, from your side on the GC, obviously, like, drywall was a big part of what you guys were managing, not just on the self-performed piece, but with other trade contractors. What would you say, like, that you expect of the subs that are managing that process that Mikki talked about? What are you guys looking for when you're looking to not just hire the right trade as far as the drywall contractor, but on the job? What are some of the things that you're looking for when it comes to that type of material management?
Yeah, basically it comes down to production. I need the subs to produce, and I know that what they need to produce is manpower and material. So if they're up on their material and they're communicating well about lead times and shortages and other things like that, that makes my life a lot easier. And also, when they are communicating well, my team can respond to their material deliveries. So I'm not jamming up the job site because all these material deliveries are coming in at one time and no one really knows when they're coming. You can't call the sub and ask them, hey, when's this delivery coming? And it's like, well, I don't know. You'll have to call someone else to ask them. And no one really knows, right? Because it was a phone call from 4 days ago that who knows if it actually went in. So communication and productivity is what I'm looking for from the general contractors, and that's what SubBase is going to help them achieve.
And Mikki, when you talked about the hard costs, like savings from going and hiring someone to help on the accounting side that you're paying X amount of dollars for, now you're automating it, but you still have obviously the feel and you're doing a lot more in-house. It's hard to obviously put numbers to it, but what would you say was like the number one biggest piece to like going to a material procurement software that's specific? What was the biggest number one piece of driver for the business that most people probably aren't thinking about today?
Oh, it's hard because there's honestly a couple of pieces that we kind of didn't expect SubBase to help with. Really that estimated versus actual, like that real-time update every time you're submitting a PO and being able to see that drawdown of your materials is such a huge factor in us knowing like, okay, we have this many units left. So I don't know. It's more of a peace of mind. It's like, you're right, you're on track, like, or an oh crap. Like,
Yeah.
something has gone horribly wrong and we have a problem here. So there's a huge peace of mind that comes from using SubBase in that real-time material tracking. But just going from like not having SubBase to having SubBase, the material waste that we were dealing with, because listen, we don't get to control the guys who load the boards in the job. We don't get to control our
Right.
suppliers. They have their own process. We provide them with as much information and as a software and a system that they can use, and it's like whether they use it or not is really not in our control. But it has become such a seamless process. Like, we submit our POs, we know what was loaded, we know what wasn't, and we are able, that ability to reduce our order on the next, like in the field, when we know we have 5 boards left over, being able to reduce that number in the field this is the first project that we're using SubBase from start to finish on, because we're kind of new to SubBase, but we started last year in the middle of a project. But I am very interested to see the amount of money that we saved by not loading boards on the job that we didn't. And I think that to any drywaller who doesn't have a system that's managing the boards that are going out there and being able to in real time reduce that board count because there was 5 left over in the garage, that in and of itself makes SubBase worth it.
And let's actually talk about that now. So what I want to do is kind of go jump into the platform and really talk through, like, this is that commitment, right? So obviously at a pre-con, I'm locking in my prices, I'm locking my units, I've got my database materials in already, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm able to now place orders against that commitment. I can easily send to the job, right? My catalog of items that are pre-populated are here, and I'm just really going through this with my team, with my locked-in prices, with my vendors, and I'm able to submit and place orders, right? Let's say level 3, right off of that commitment, syncing into QuickBooks if I want, and then as I'm drawing down those orders, I can start to see in real time where that hits. So this is a commitment that I have with my vendor. I have a single vendor committed, and I've got the ability to see where it is in a workflow. I could obviously see from different calendar views, right, where things could be as far as my different types of projects. I may have a bunch of different orders hitting that are not just for this job, but for other projects. And so, Mikki, when you talk about this commitment drawdown and seeing what's remaining, right, when you go through the whole workflow, what were the biggest aha moments you saw? Was it being able to track back the order? Was it the invoice hitting? And this is just me going through the platform live, but feel free to kind of jump in here. The invoice piece, right, is tying to that exact order, and we're allowing the system to do what it does best, which a human shouldn't have to do, is check is this correct? Am I being invoiced for what I actually ordered?
Yeah, I mean, that in and of itself was huge. So we were able to switch where the invoices get sent to the SubBase invoice email, and so everything good that comes from L&W, who's our current supplier, goes directly to SubBase, and SubBase, does magic. I don't know how that works. I do drywall. And it just ends up in there, and it kind of self-selects itself. It ties to the POs and it ties to the jobs. And so when my bookkeeper goes in there, there may be 30 invoices connected with just one PO, but now all she has to do is just look at it, make sure that it's like, and it self reconciles, but you know, to be efficient, you want to make sure that you double check that. But that cut her time in half as to manually entering 30 invoices versus these invoices are already in the system. They're already tied to the PO, and all she has to do is just go and make sure that we did get billed for the right thing, that it was the right cost. And sometimes, you know, what's really awesome about SubBase is it catches when they bill you for the wrong amount. So obviously every drywall company is going to have kind of a different agreement with their supplier. But because we do these multifamily projects, we have locked in pricing for a certain period of time. So my pricing, you know, from PO1 to PO30 should be the same on every single one of those products. Well, if something comes through in an invoice that does not match that committed price, SubBase flags it. And so that in and of itself has saved us several $100s, because there was one board that they had added like $2 a sheet to, and SubBase was like, wait a second, what? That's not right. And so we were able to go back and be like, hey, you guys overbilled us for this. And that is something that's like, fingers crossed, without a program, you would have caught it. But we have so much going on that it's like, maybe you caught it, maybe you didn't. And then it makes you wonder, like, before SubBase, how many things you didn't catch, or, you know, like that went through that were prices that weren't what your locked in price was. So that is a big thing too, is that it's checking your pricing. It's making sure that you're not being overbilled, that you're not being billed for a higher quantity, that you're not being billed for a higher price that you have locked in.
Yeah, one of the ways that we kind of describe, and it's a little bit different, right, with materials is, okay, you know, your carpenter is swinging a hammer. He's getting somewhat of like the best tools in the field to get his job done. But what are the tools for people that are running a business, that are trying to improve in the back office? And that's where SubBase comes in, as that tool. But it's not supposed to change the way that it's being done. It's supposed to augment the time and make it so that it is a frictionless experience to kind of get what you need out of it. You should be using it as a tool. That's exactly right. I know we got a couple of minutes left. Definitely want to get you know, a couple more things out of this just high level demo. So what Mikki, you're talking about is like commitments, right? And commitments could be, you know, my drywall materials. I can have different committed orders. And then what about the pricing aspect? Are you getting pricing up to date? How are you actually getting that up to date pricing? Are you leveraging RFQs? Because obviously there's a lot of different workflows and how that happens, but I'm curious as to how you're managing that across other projects that you're working with.
So we definitely have different pricing for every project that we're on, because it you know, it came into the pipeline at a different time, and you know, things with material pricing are so fluid and flexible right now that it's like, who knows what it is. But we do have a locked in pricing, and I don't shop. I know it's I don't shop my material suppliers. We have like 2 solid material suppliers here in our area, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of just one of those ones where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
Sure.
I've trained my guys. They understand what I expect when they come on our job and when they load our jobs. And so that to me is more valuable than, oh, maybe I can save a couple of cents here. So I don't do like the request for pricings from different suppliers. But what is wonderful,
you're locking into them.
Yeah, like I just have, they give me pricing. But I love that for each job that I have in SubBase, I can lock in that specific pricing. So that was a huge point of time waste with my bookkeeper, is from one job to another, the materials were priced differently. And so she would have to, you know, she'd be accessing one file and like, okay, this is what the material price is supposed to be here, and then on the next job. And so, but when you're entering invoices, they're not like segregated by job. They're just like how they were ordered. So my poor bookkeeper was probably spending 3 or 4 hours just like going from one sheet to the other, whereas within SubBase, it's all in there. So she no longer had to do that piece of it at all, which saved huge amount of time.
Yeah, product-based pricing is a big thing that we're seeing, and part of like how do you build a tool for the trades is understanding like we understood like where some of the common pitfalls were with implementing software, but the platform has to speak the language of a drywall contractor to understand how they want to segment their database by project, by item, by vendor, because everyone does things a little bit different. So the flexibility should be there. I know we're wrapping up on time. Tao, we can open it up for Q&A right now, unless there's anything else that any of you, Maxwell or Mikki, wanted to kind of chat through. Tao, you let us know how we're looking on time.
We're doing good right now.
Okay.
So we do have one question coming in here. Says we do have lock pricing, but some of our vendors quotes would expire, escalate pricing when it hits a specific date. Are we able to fix the commitment pricing when it hits a certain date?
Yes. So inside of SubBase, obviously you can unlock, right? There's a couple ways to do it. You can unlock this commitment, and I could go in and I can actually update this price now to $55 if I want. That's one way to do it. There are other ways to automate that inside of SubBase, but today, depending on how frequent it is, you can go and make an update pretty quickly, and boom, I just now updated that to $55 instead of $50 by line item. The reason why we like to lock things in is because what we noticed was, the field sometimes has a little bit of happy fingers. Sometimes things go, they're maybe ordering for their own job, or they're on price by vendors. We lock it in at that commitment level and only allow admins, if there's a change order, to unlock at the line item. So yes, you can unlock it and make an adjustment.
Great. I think this is for Mikki and Maxwell. What kind of learning curve did your team experience when adopting SubBase? Was it easy to get a buy-in?
I was actually really surprised. So for anybody who like has guys that work in the field, that like the chances of them actually using this, it's like slim, absolute none. Like everybody's like, oh, well, everybody has a smartphone. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. But what was really surprising is once everybody saw that they didn't have to move the board around if they just went into the system and updated that board for the next PO. That was a high motivator for them. So like not having to like move board up and down floors and reducing their amount of work, they were highly motivated to just go in there, and because it really is very user friendly. So we have had so much adoption of this that I was genuinely surprised. So much so that even our material suppliers, I really didn't think they were gonna participate. Like they have their own system, they have their own thing. But what they realized was when they go in and they adjust things within SubBase, they don't have to have an account. There was nothing extra they have to click in. They don't have to log into anything. It was so easy for them. It was stupid for them to not adjust it within SubBase because it was keeping the orders up to date and like on the same page, and they're getting paid faster. So they were definitely finding that ever since we switched to SubBase, because everything's matching up and where everything's going into the system as those invoices come in, obviously it's easier for us to pay on time when everything's in the system on time. So they love SubBase now. And I'm actually using SubBase to be like, well, I feel like I should have a lower price because I'm going to pay my bills maybe even early.
I would say from like the top down, if you have the top down buy-in, right, that helps tremendously. The biggest piece of the field is what I'm showing here is we've tried to make it as frictionless as possible with the databases that they're familiar with, the terminology, so that when they're making those requests in one shot, it's very fluid. But it all starts at the top. If you have top down buy-in, anything's possible with software at this point.
Maxwell, what's your experience with your company?
Yeah, so I worked alongside some salty dogs, some older superintendents who, don't want to hear it, don't want to embrace the technology. But as soon as I just, pushed a little bit and they saw the platform and they figured out that it actually is going to save them time, that's when they started adopting it. And they didn't have to deal with me either. You know, I'm observing the, you know, the transactions and everything and approving stuff, but you know, it's less work. And when they figure that out, it kind of becomes second nature. And I had people that were in their 50s you know, ordering materials, no problem.
Do you think tools like SubBase are becoming the standard, or are they seen as a competitive edge?
I can take that one first, Mikki, if it's all right. But I think that you have to have implementation of technology right now in today's age. There's so much competition, especially in the construction industry, that basically that competition means that you now have to reduce your price to get an award, right? And so your margin is having to shrink, right? So to get that advantage and that competitive edge and not have that margin shrink, you got to hedge that with savings, like what Mikki was talking about. With you cut 5 boards of drywall down across 300 units, 1,500 sheets of drywall. That adds to your bottom line. That means you can increase the salary of your employees. That means that you can offer better benefits. You know, it's these little hidden savings that adds to a margin of 4-5% fee. You know what I mean? That's really going to give you the edge. And I think it's absolutely necessary to leverage the technology, especially something like this with Eric. You know, Eric's not a Silicon Valley guy, even though he plays one and he pulls it off pretty good. He's not a Silicon Valley guy. He's a construction guy. He knows construction first and Silicon Valley second. So he knows right off the bat if implementation of something on the platform is going to work or not, because he has firsthand experience. So that's kind of what hopefully I kind of answered your question.
I don't think, I always joke that the only thing slower to adopt change and like do things differently than construction is the federal government. And I think that's really accurate, especially within the trades. I see a lot of GCs are adopting, you know, new technology. Everybody's got Procore now, and really it is, we're beholden to start adopting new technology, because like, listen, that spreadsheet ain't gonna get it done. And especially when you are competing against somebody like me who is adopting technology, and I do know on that next job I can drop $1,500 boards and still be $1,500 boards and still be profitable. So it's like, is it necessary? I mean, that depends on your perspective of necessary, but if you're going to compete with me using that, having that technology and having access to that technology, I think it gives you a stronger competitive advantage for sure.
Right. And this is for Eric, but I think it's pertinent to all of you. Where do you see material tech like this heading in the next 3 to 5 years?
I can start. So, you know, Mikki mentioned a couple of points, right? She mentioned the subcontractor side, but she also mentioned vendors, right? Vendors are liking what they're seeing. Where we're taking the platform is listening to our users. Right now, we have a lot of them on both sides of the platform, but we are moving deeper into helping vendors, right? Any material is going to touch a vendor. Doesn't matter if it's a box of nails or 150 sheets of drywall. You have that other person on the other side that you have a relationship with. We want to enhance that. We want to give the tool to the vendor to get better customer service. So we see the platform evolving that way on the material side. And then we're heading into a lot of equipment, right? Equipment rental. The flows are almost similar, except how you're pricing and how you're tracking your equipment rental, especially for drywall contractors, is in abundance. It's very manual right now. So we're going deeper into equipment rental right now, especially in the platform today. And finally, obviously, everyone's talking about it, like artificial intelligence is going to allow a lot of the manual processes just to be as fluid as possible. Material databases now, the field can speak into their phone. We're working on a conversational mobile application where a field superintendent can speak English or Spanish into his phone, and we would translate that, pull from the database, and send that request to someone to then send an order or send it right to a vendor. So there's a lot of those types of flows that are being built today, not just dreamt up, but being built that we'll start seeing into the material space.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is coming when it comes to material tracking. One of the I do a lot of consulting with AI companies that want to figure out how to, you know, get into the construction space, because there really is a lot of room for it. So one of the companies that I'm working with is developing an AI based software that will count the boards once they're loaded. So you walk in with your phone and it uses the LiDAR that's already within your phone to count. So, because listen, if you're being smart about what you're doing, you're counting the boards once they're loaded, so that you know that what you got is actually what they said that they loaded. So counting the boards is still really relevant, but it's really time consuming. So like that next step in technology is an app that literally you just scan your phone around the room and it counts the types of boards, the numbers of boards for each unit, and you have that in like almost like their version of an Excel spreadsheet. You label it unit, 103, and it gives you the entire board count breakdown, and all you had to do was scan your phone. So like there's a lot of really cool technology that's coming out there that's really based on like for the subs and for the people who are actually, boots on the ground doing the work, to help them do it more efficiently and more accurately. So I think material tracking is really, in the next 5 years, gonna come quite a bit from where it is.
Yeah, and I would say basically like historical data, big data, when you have all this pricing, you have projects where you know the outcome and the values, and all this data is getting captured. You can also use that. You'll be able to forecast future trends in the market. You'll be able to essentially, I'll just, hey, here's my plans, feed it into the machine. The AI is going to tell me how much that job's going to cost in 5 years when it's ready to go. It's going to get pretty crazy. So yeah, levering the AI is going to be very interesting.
Great, thank you. That concludes our Q&A portion. Thank you, presenters. Thanks to SubBase for sponsoring this webinar. Eric, I'm going to send it back to you for last remarks.
Yeah, so appreciate everyone taking the time. Obviously, if anyone's interested in, experiencing what Mikki and Maxwell have been talking about, we love to just chat, have conversations. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on our website, SubBase, SUBBASE.io. And for any AWCI member, we were offering a one-time implementation, 50% off the implementation, because we do a very hands-on implementation. We are very much along and holding your hand along the way. And that was something that we offered to AWCI members, because we believe the most important part of buying software is making sure it's properly implemented. So we're honoring that this month, which would be the month of June. So that's kicking in this month, only for AWCI members. But yeah, that was it. Appreciate everyone's time. And if Mikki or Maxwell have anything else you wanted to say, great. If not, I appreciate the webinar that you guys put together, and the AWCI folks. We'd love to do it again at some time. So appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.